phases of any project. So when it comes to the phases of any project, usually, please note this, this is an important interview question. How do we do the data migration? Or what are the different phases of data migration? I would say phases of data migration. Okay. So the first phase would be, obviously, you will be consulting your DDDs. Then the first step is extraction of data. Somebody has to mute his mic or her mic. There is some noise coming up. Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. So the first phase would be the extraction of data from the legacy system. Now it depends on project to project. Usually what happens is like you will be connected to a live system, and the business will not allow you to extract the data every now and then because it slows down their system. So what they do is like they will ask you to extract this data after the business hours. Okay. The first thing would be to extract the data from legacy. What we call this? We call this as landing of data. Please note down these terms. Landing of data, simply you are dumping the data from ECC and you are pushing this data into your HANA DB. We discussed this in yesterday's call, like how do we extract data? Mm, we did it with the use of some filters, but for landing, we do not use any filter. We do not take out any column. Whatever is there, we will dump it. Now, there might be some specific, I mean to say, certain situations might be there. For example, in case of my BKPF or BSEG, or in case of my MVK, where the data is in the volume of, like billions or millions. Say there are 20 million records. Now, if I try to extract each and every field, it will make my programs, or it will make my extraction programs really slow. If I'm intending to do something in 2 hours, it might take me 18 hours or 9 hours or 10 hours. And the business does not want to do this. You know why? Because if I have, for example, I have MBK and I'm not using all the 60 or 70 fields, right? So there is no point of extracting all the fields. I will only extract the fields that I need for my project. Here, I will not be doing any manipulation. I will not be doing any changes, nothing. Just dump the data from your ECC into your HANA Studio. Always remember these are three systems. One is ECC, that is the source. One is HANA Studio, which is my intermediate system. And the third one is S4 HANA system, where data has to eventually go. Okay. Now, what is the extraction of data from legacy? We call it landing of data. I will just dump my data from legacy to HANA Studio. And as a naming convention, I start these names with LND underscore table underscore something. It depends on the project. If you ask me, hey, please extract the or land the table Mara, I will do something like LND underscore Mara underscore ext. We always have the nomenclatures or naming conventions for each and every project because we want everybody to follow the same thing. I don't want someone to name it as LND and someone to name it as LAND or someone to name it as LANDING. I don't want to do that. So we have the naming conventions so that if I have a look at my tables, I straight away understand. Hey, LND means I'm just extracting this table from my legacy system. Or if there's a new guy coming in, if the moment we give him the documentation, he should be able to understand what this LND means. Okay. What is the first step? The first step for any data migration, I mean to say, or I can say there are different phases of data migration. The first phase is I will be extracting my data from my legacy system and I will be dumping this into HANA Studio. We call this process as landing of data. And what we do here is we simply dump the data. And I told you, sometimes the client, they will not allow you to extract data from the legacy anytime because it will slow down their system. So sometimes we do it on the maybe after the business hours, or sometimes we keep the jobs running maybe on the Friday evening, so that once we are back on Monday, we have the tables beautifully landed up into our HANA studio. This is my landing. So I have something called L&D table now. Okay. This is naming convention. This is not something like a hard and fast rule. Everybody will be using LND Mara EXT. No. Somebody can use LAND, somebody can use LANDING, but it depends on a project, and we will always make sure that the naming convention is followed. Because every time you do anything in BODS or data migration in any project, there are always audits. What they do in the audits is they check if you are following the naming conventions that have been set up by that have been, I'm to say, discussed and agreed upon. The moment I will land my data, I will manipulate it now, right? What do I mean by manipulation? I mean to I will transform this data. There will be some value for the legacy field, but once I am taking it to S4, I mean I will name it as target. There will be some other value. For example, I want to change the account group for a vendor from A001 to X001. So basically, I'm manipulating this data, right? So all the manipulations will happen in HANA Studio. This data will reside in HANA Studio, right? This LND Mara, where will it reside? Inside HANA Studio. The moment I extract my data, I have my data in HANA Studio. Now, no matter how many times I run my jobs, I'm not dependent on the client's source or legacy system. I'm not hitting that now. Okay. The moment, okay, after this landing of data, I am manipulating the data. So what will happen with the manipulation of data? I have something, I name these tables usually as stg underscore mara. Then I can name it as transform, right? Transformed is a table where some of the fields, not all, some of the legacy fields, they might be changed. For example, I might change the country India to IN, Germany to G. But please make sure whatever field is getting changed from legacy to S4, we always have two fields for that, two columns for that. Country underscore legacy, country underscore target. Account group underscore legacy, account group underscore target. This is the best practice because when your business owners validate your preload reports, they will directly be able to see it. Okay, this was in the legacy. Now this is changing to target value. And they can confirm if the validation is if the transformation is looking good to them. Otherwise, they have to then refer to their XREFs, refer to their functional documents, and it becomes a burden for them. So the best approach is whenever you are changing any field, please create one more field for that. If you are changing country, always have two fields now: country underscore legacy, country underscore target, account group underscore legacy, account group underscore target. The moment I transform my data, the next step is validation of data. Validation of transform data. What is validation of data? Validation of data is you are checking your transform data now if this is relevant to S4. If I am changing my country from India to IN, is this IN acceptable to S4? I will check the configurations. If I have some 200 fields coming up from my source, I will check all the mandatory columns if they have the value because S4 expects primary keys to have value. So I will have all sorts of validations to make sure my data is S4 ready. What are the different validations I will use? I will use a mandatory validation check. I will use a lookup check. Lookup is lookup, or I can say config check. Then I can have something like xref check. I told you yesterday, If business is giving me an XREF file for country India and Germany. They want me to change this country India to IN, Germany to GE. Now, when I see my data, I don't have the cross referencing for United Kingdom. So United Kingdom from the legacy for the legacy field it will be United Kingdom, but for the target field it will be null. So I will fail all those records because I don't have the XREF defined for that. Then I will go back to the business owner and I will ask them, is it in scope? Is this country, United Kingdom, in scope? Yes or no? No, it's not in scope. I'm good to go. I will fail those records. Yes, they are in scope. Then, sir, please give me the cross referencing for United Kingdom. I can also have some format checks. What is the format check? For example, you are asking me, like, hey, you want to migrate the telephone numbers. What if someone is giving me 8-digit telephone number, 11-digit telephone number, or blank telephone numbers, right? So I will check if anybody is giving me a telephone number, it should be 10 digits. Or if somebody is giving me, say, like email ID, it's not like 111.com. Something, it has to be meaningful. Otherwise, there is no point of migrating data. So what I will repeat these three steps. Please, this is important. Try to take notes of these. You will land your data, then you will transform your data, then you will validate your data. The moment you validate your data, you will have two tables, stg stg underscore mara underscore valid, stg underscore mara underscore invalid. What is this stg mara valid? Now this becomes my load ready file, or this is my load ready data, or I can call this as enriched data. Three different terms I can use for the same thing. This is my load ready. This can be enriched data, or I can say this is valid data. When I want to create a report on this table, I call it as preload success, right? Because all these records are relevant to S4, all the validations have been done, and this data is looking good to me from the load point of view. This invalid table forms the basis for my preload error file. I will send both these files to my business and I will get these validated. If the preload success file looks good to them, they will ask me, okay, buddy, please go ahead and load. If the preload success file does not look good to them, they can raise a ticket, they can create a defect, and they will ask me to change my jobs or programs. The load ready data should match the expectations of the data owner. Now, what happens with the preload error file? They will analyze this data, they will analyze this data, and then they will try to figure out why this data is failing. If there is a configuration error happening, then they will go to their SAP systems and they will set up the configurations. If there is a bad data, they will go and they will create a defect for the source team and they will ask them to do the cleansing. If there is a there can be format errors, again they have to go back and they have to do the cleansing in source system. If there is an XREF error, they have to provide me the XREF for that particular value, or they have to write it in their DDD, hey country, this is out of scope, and when I am extracting my data, I will apply a filter like country is not equal to this country. You know, each and everything will be having an action. If there is a mandatory error, cleansing is needed. Format error, cleansing is needed. XREF, they have to give me the XREF or update the DDD. Configuration error, they have to set up their S4 HANA system. This file, this table, I can again, for the sake of naming, I just dump this data into something called stg underscore mara underscore enr. This table will be having the same data as this table, but for the sake of naming conventions or for the sake of segregating this databases, we will always have this enriched table at the end. This is the table that will go to S4. Now, let us assume you got the green signal. You will pick up the data from this table and this will go to my S4 system. Maybe by idocs, maybe by BAPIs, maybe by LTMC or anything. Suppose we loaded the data. We had 100 records. Out of 100 records, 90 were pass, 10 were fail. For these 10 failed records, we will create a post-load error and we will mention the reasons of failure. For these 90 pass records, I will create a post-load success file or reconciliation file. What happens in the post-load success file or reconciliation file? I will match up each and every field. If I am trying to load country, I will have two fields now in my report: country underscore legacy, country underscore target, then country underscore match. Okay. If I'm trying to move account group, ktalk underscore legacy, ktalk underscore target, ktalk underscore match. What happens inside this is if I'm trying to load country IN, in the target country is IN, then this would be a match. If I'm trying to move ktalk A001, it's getting moved as A001 in the S4 HANA system. This is a match. If again, if I'm trying to move something like description, legacy, description, target, description, match. What if I tried to move PepsiCo, but the system could only have 5 characters? PepsiCo I tried to load, it got loaded as Pepsi. Now this is a mismatch, right? So what business owners do? They go to this post-load reconciliation file or post-load success file or reconciliation file. They will try to figure out if any of the records is having or any of the fields is having a mismatch. Suppose there's a mismatch on this field, PepsiCo and Pepsi. They will ask you the reasons for this. You can tell them, hey buddy, SAP can only accommodate 5 fields. For example, for material description, only 40 can be there, 40 characters. But if in the legacy system there are 100 characters, you cannot accommodate that, right? Then they can go back to their system, source system, and they can correct this data. Please remember, this is mock 1, what we are doing as of now. It's not like we will pick up the data from legacy and we will dump it into S4 production system. No, this does not happen. We will be having 2-3 mocks. We will be having data loads to the quality system before we go to the actual production loads. So when you go for the production loads, everything should be picture perfect. You cannot intend to load PepsiCo and load Pepsi there. No, we have to figure out all these things in the mock loads. So what can happen here is they can go back to their legacy system and they can clean their data. They can do data cleansing and they can change this PepsiCo to Pepsi. Now I am sorted. In the next run, this will become a match for me. The moment business owners check these post-load reports, if data looks correct to them, they can give you a green signal that the data is looking good from the source and target point of view. If the data is not looking good to them, they will create a defect and you have to resolve those defects. Now, this defect, like if there are only five characters in the target but you are giving me seven characters, this defect will be assigned to the data owner of that particular region. Hey, please do the data cleansing. Now, if some because of some configurations, I'm trying to load, say I'm trying to load a plant as 101 but it's getting loaded as null, it can happen. Then they will assign these defect to the functional owner. Say, please set up the correct configurations correctly. Or they find out, right? We try to move some 10 fields because we had to load one more field so that the data could be loaded into the target system correctly. Then they will ask us, okay, include that particular field in scope. For example, if I try to move bombs and I try to move bombs for my usage one. Okay, I can move, I can migrate my bombs without the use of there's a field called reverel, which we call as sales indicator. But if I try to move the same bomb for usage 5, it will not move because it will ask me, hey, I'm expecting a field reverel, that is sales indicator. Then what the business owner will do, he will just introduce this one more column in the DDD. He will make this in scope. Now let us assume that everything is looking good to them. Any reporting tool, if they have a defect, they already have the tool set up. Some of the clients use Zyra, some of the clients use Solman, some can create an Excel, some can maintain it. It depends on client to client, but there will be defects and we have to resolve them completely before the next mock. Because the moment we reach production loads, there should be null defects, no defect at all. Whatever is in the legacy system, it has to completely match with the target system. I once tried to move some data and they had when they validated the data, there was a difference of 0.008 cents. You know, we had to load 58 cents. Somehow it got loaded at 58.008. There is a defect for that because clients are very specific about their data. So the moment we reach our production system, our data should be picture perfect. Now let us assume they gave me the green signal for this post load report. Now what happens to these 10 records? These 10 records. For 90, we already created the post load reconciliation or post load success file or reconciliation file, and we already shown them if everything is matching or not. But what happens with these 10 records? The business will go and business will check this report. When you try to load your idocs or bapis, bapi will give you a return function, right? In the return function, it will give you the reason of error. For idocs, we need to go to two tables. One is edidc, one is edids. I will cover that when we go into data migration. Okay, but as of now, please remember these two tables. One is edidc, one is edids. Inside edidc, you have the IDOC number, and inside edids, I have the complete explanation like why this record is failing. I will use these two tables. I will create a report on top of that. I will send this to business. I will tell them, hey buddies, these 10 records are failing because of this reason. Now, what if they corrected those defects? Suppose there was one configuration missing and they corrected it, right? They asked you to load these 10 records. Now, when you go for the load, you will not definitely load these 100 records again, right? Because 90 have already been loaded. I do not want to load 100 again. That will create, if there are certain objects where the number range has been set as internal, you will create out. I was intending to create 100 records in total. You might end up creating 190. Some 90 records will be duplicate, right? So please always use the concept of delta loads in your programs. Whenever you have your programs for load, we will always have delta loads. How do we do it in BODS? That's a separate thing. I will cover this in detail, but try to understand the delta loads. What is a delta load now? I was trying to load 100. I loaded 90. Now I am remaining with 10. If I run my jobs again, I should not be loading these 100. I should be only loading these 10. Okay? So that's what I do with these post load error records. And that's where the delta loads become handy, because we will not be migrating. For example, there is an external number range for a material. I hope you guys know what is internal number range and what is external number range. For the freshers, internal number is generated by the SAP S4 system on its own, based on some different configurations. For example, what now you might ask me, what configuration? For example, for material types, for a material type finished good, they can set up the number range in such a way. If the material type is finished good or FERT, please allocate a number between 0 to 1 lakh. If the material type is halfway, allocate a number between 1 lakh to 2 lakh. The moment any data owner sees this material number in S4 HANA system, he can quickly figure out whether this is a finished good, whether this is a semi-finished good, this is a raw material, this is a service, whatever it is. So they set up the number ranges. For internal number range, if you try to load 100 again, you will create 90 duplicate records. If the number range has been set as external, what is external number range? External number range, whatever you are passing into the IDOC, it will be an external to the S4 HANA system. For example, you are only having one legacy system. Okay, you are having only one legacy system. There are 1 million materials. The client wants to have the same material number in S4 HANA. So what you can do in the configurations, you can set the number range as external. So whatever data, whatever material number you send to the SAP system, S4 will create exactly the same material number over there. But if it's more than one legacy system, then we take care of data deduplications and all. Then we mostly set up the internal number range. Now, if I have the internal number range, you will definitely create 90 duplicates. If you have the external number range, then the system will tell you this material number already exists. But let's be prepared for the worst. The worst is if we are using internal number range and you try to push in more 100 records, we will be creating duplicate records, and this is not recommended. So that's how we take use of delta loads. So what is the overall process now? I extract data. This will be from ECC to HANA Studio, or I can write DB, my local DB. It can be HANA Studio, it can be SQL, SQL Anywhere, anything it can be. What is the second point? I will transform my data. What is the third point? I will validate my data. The moment I validate my data, two files will come up. One will be preload success. One will be preload error. What we do with these two files? We send both these files to my business owner or data owner, get these validated. If he gives me a green signal, I load my data. Once I load my data, I will create my post load files. Okay, post load files can have two types. One is post load error, one is post load success, and this we also call as reconciliation report. Preload error can be because of four things. One, it can be like some of the fields were expecting a value, and from the legacy or from the source it's coming as null. They will The business or the data owner, he will go back to his source system and clean his data. It will form the basis for his data cleansing. There can be lookup error, what we also call as configuration error. Then the functional owner will go back to the target system. Here he will go back to the legacy system, right? Here data owner will be going back to his legacy system to clean his data. If there is a config error, functional owner will go to S4 HANA system and do the configuration. If there is an XF error, functional owner will check if that particular record is in scope or us he missed to give us the extra for that particular value. If he is giving me the extra for India and Germany, like India should get changed to IN, Germany to GE, but he forgot to give me for United Kingdom, then he will tell me, hey buddy, I'm sorry, I messed it up. He will update his extra file, and then I will run my preloads again. But if he tells me no, United Kingdom is out of scope, then I'm okay, I'm good to go. I will not load those records, I will make them as out of scope, and I can tell him later on, buddy, for mock 2, please go ahead and mark country equal to United Kingdom from source as out of scope, so that I can filter out this data even from the extraction. I don't want this data because you are not intending to load it. If there is a format error, if for example the country for example the telephone number in the legacy system is 11111, 5-digit number, but I know telephone number should be 10, right? So I can ask the data owner, please go back to your legacy system and do the cleansing. So this will be cleansing, this will be like readdressing if those records are in scope or not. This will be like going to the S4HANA system and doing the configurations, and this will be like data cleansing. This is the data owner, this is the functional owner. Only the data owners, functional owners, don't confuse yourself between data owner, functional owner. He can be the same person. Okay, but someone has to do it. Usually what happens, the client did will never give you the access to ECC system. You can give them a report and they will do it on their own. They will not let you change, manipulate their legacy data. So they will go back to the system, they will keep track of all those changes. Now I want to move to my second point, that is my cleansing needs, or I discussed what is the discovery phase. When it comes to the discovery phase, clients want to take a decision if they are ready, or is their legacy data ready for the migration. How do they know it? They know it by the use of information stewards. What they do is like they give us different reports. Hey, we have these many reports. Sorry, different rules, and they tell us to create reports based on those rules. And they once we pass our data through those rules, they come to a conclusion if they want to migrate their data or not. For example, my client is giving me say 50 rules, okay, for a particular object. Say, let me take an example of material master. My client is giving me some 550 rules. He's asking me to create these rules in information stewards, and then he wants to analyze his data based on these rules. Now each rule will be having a score, and it will be out of 10. Some clients have an expectation, okay, if my data is like having 5% overall score, then I'll be going ahead with the data migration. If not, then I will put this pilot on hold. What is a pilot? Pilot is simply like we have we might have our data migration project will be divided into different pilots. It depends on the data owners how they want to divide it. For example, they want to divide the pilots based on this material type, or based on some sales organization, or based on some plant. In case of customers and vendors, they might ask me, okay, for this particular pilot we want to migrate the data for US. Then in the next pilot we want to migrate the data for UK. Then in the third pilot we want to migrate the data for India. Now if they ask me to have a check on country US, right, or plant 1020, they want me to have a check on this. So I will write my rules, or I will create a code in information stewards, and I will give them the real-time reports. Once they check these reports, they will then take a call. For example, they tried to get the reports for country India. Now they figured out, okay, we have 60% of data is looking good to them. They will give me the green light. They will just have maybe the discussions, okay, let's make country India as the pilot, and then let's start with the data migration. But if they want to check for US and they found out like, hey, only the score is 1 out of 10, so it means that the 10% data is ready for migration. So they might not go ahead. They will just make sure like they clean the data first, and then they go ahead with the data migration. What is the basic need for me to take a call whether I will be migrating my data or not? Data, right? So data cleansing or data profiling, we call it. We call basically, sorry, I'm sorry for using the word data cleansing. I should use the term data profiling. Profiling is done on the source data, just some basic filters. For example, for pilot one, they want to check the data for, let's say, like customers. Let me take an example of vendors now. Enough of materials. Let us take an example for vendors. For pilot one, they want to analyze the data for country US, and they want to take a call if they will go ahead and migrate the data for country US. Okay. So what I will do first, I will extract this data for country equal to US for all the relevant tables. For vendor, my relevant tables would be LFA1, LFB1, LFBK, LFM1, LFM2, or WYT3 as well. There are many tables for vendor. But as of now, let me take an example. I want to focus on vendor general data, that is LFA1, and I want to have a look on LFB1 as well. That is my company code data. So what I will do first is I will extract the data for these two particular tables. Then I will filter out the data for country equal to US, and then I will go to my information stewards. I will show you how I have to write the rules and how the score is generated, how the scorecards are set up, and ultimately I will get a consolidated score for maybe vendors, and then the business can take a call if they want to go ahead with the migration of vendors for pilot equal to US. So the first point to start with would be the extraction of data. Let me create a project here. Let me name it, say, TJ underscore vendor underscore maybe profiling, something like that. Okay. Now let me create a job, and I name the job as JB underscore vendor underscore profiling underscore US. I want to do it for US as of now. My job is ready. Now I will get a data flow. I'm doing all this in data services. Let me do something like df underscore maybe vendor underscore profiling underscore say LFA1 underscore US. Okay. I will go to my data store. I will go to my ECC, right click on this, import by name. Here I will write LFA1, hit enter. LFA1 should be here now. I want LFA1, then I want LFB1 as well. I can extract both LFA1 and LFB1 inside LFA1, but I don't want to do that because I want to show you like how I can connect my data flows in series or in parallels, and I mostly avoid extracting multiple tables in a single data flow. Why? Because of job optimization. I want my jobs or data flows to be optimized so that these, when the jobs are running, they take me less time. Let me extract LFA1 first. I drag it, I drop it. Since this is my profiling, I will not be selecting any fields. Whatever is there from the legacy, I will just drag and drop it. I will simply do this, drag it, drop it. The only thing I'm going to do is select these two primary keys, right click on this and reverse primary key. Somebody might ask me, why are you always doing this? Why are you always going there and then selecting the primary keys and reversing the primary key? Why? Because like primary keys will be unique. What if I want to dump my data for two legacy systems? And it might happen like vendor number one is coming from US and vendor number one is coming from UK. The moment I run my jobs, it will give me a primary key error, right? Sometimes I might extract data from multiple sources. That's the reason for a good practice. I will always make sure I just reverse the primary keys over here. Now, what I want to do is like I want to select US, right? Let me analyze the data first, like how they are maintaining it for US. Is US even present here or there is some other country? I will just check the data for LFA1 and I will go to, where is land one? Should be here somewhere. Ok- Okay, this is land one, right? If you want to check how many land ones are there, I will right click on this. I will do profile. Okay. So as of now, US is having 1022 records. For Germany, 967. For India, 327. Let me take US. I go inside. I do something like go to the where clause. I just drag, sorry, I have to drag land one. I will do something like this equal to US. I'm keeping a space here because this is how they have maintained the data in SAP. Now, I will have this template table from here and I will drag and drop it. I will name it as maybe LND underscore LFA1 underscore profiling as of now. I don't want to name, or I can name it as EXT. This is simple, or something like underscore US. I can do it. It depends. So I will connect this. Now, if you see LFB1, I want to see the data for LFB1. I don't have any field like country in LFB1, right? But I'm only concerned for records which belong to vendors for country US. But LFB1 is not having any such data, right, for countries. So I will make use of LFA1 here. What I will do with the LFA1 extract, I will join only those LFA1 EXT data with LFB1 which have the country US, and I want to extract only the data from LFB1 for such records. I'm not concerned. I don't worry about all, I don't need to worry about all the records. I only want such vendors which have a country US. Now LFA1 has a land one, but LFB1 is not having any such field like land one or country, right? So what I will do is I will first extract the records from LFA1 into this table for the country equal to US. Then I will join this table with LFB1 based on vendor number, listener, so that I only get vendors corresponding to country US. How do I do it? Let me save it first. I will do right click and there is an option like show in local. Yeah, this is the option show in local. The moment I do show in local, this is the table here. Now I will create a data flow for my LFB1. Let me name it as df underscore vendor underscore profiling underscore LFB1 underscore US. I want to join this with this. If I am not joining these two, then these two data flows will run in parallels. But I will only run two data flows in parallels when they are not having the dependency on one another. As of now, I have a dependency on LFA1 because I am extracting it only for country US and I want the data from LFB1 for only such vendors which have a country US. If I was extracting all the data from LFA1 without any filter, then it does not make sense to me to keep these two data flows in series, because I have to anyway extract all the data for LFB1. But since there's a dependency now, I want this data flow to be executed first, dump the data from this for country US into this table, then I can use this table. If I keep these two data flows in parallel, what BODS will do, it will try to execute both these data flows at the same time. But since this table LFA1 is not present initially, right? It will only be present when this data flow is completed. Then I want to use the data flow inside LFB1 data flow. If I try to run this in parallel, it will give me an error saying LFA1EXT US is not present. So, since there's a dependency, I want to run them in series. How to run them in series? Just connect this to this. It means this will execute. The moment this is executed, this table will be created and data will be dumped inside this table, LFA1. Now I will make use of this LFA1 table and I will extract the data for LFB1. Now let me take LFB1. Let me write something like query underscore LFB1 just to understand. I want all the fields for LFB1. What is Bookras? Bookras is company code. Each vendor will be having a company code. Again, I will select top 3, right click, reverse the primary key. Then I will go back to the data flow here. I will bring in this LFA1. The reason I already explained, I don't want all the LFB1 data. I want only the company code for such vendors which have a country US. Now this table will be having only those listeners or vendors which have country US. I will make use of this table. So what I will do, I will write query underscore LFA1. I will only get listener from this, because I only need listener to join it. I already discussed yesterday, if I'm using an inner join, then whatever is common between the two tables, that will show up, right? Now I will have one more query. I will always name these beautifully, because this helps me later on to understand what I am doing where. If I am doing some transformations on maybe KTalk, I will write query underscore trans underscore KTalk. It means you what see okay. What you are trying to suggest here is, why don't you simply join this to this and do a join? No, you cannot connect this table to this. No, you cannot do that. If you have to
Okay.
join, you need a query. You can you Yes, you are correct. You can connect this to this and write an inner join here. But the
Mhm.
reason I would always suggest, always use a query transform with each table coming in, because if at some later point of time you want to change the source table, then you do not need to change the joins, because you are connecting
Mhm.
this to this. The join will be here between this and this. Since I will not be deleting this query LFB1 and query LFA1 anytime, I might change the source table LFB1. What if tomorrow my business tells me, don't use LFB1, use LFB1 underscore 1? They might tell me, then at that point of time it becomes very difficult for me, or it becomes a burden for me to change the joins. If I go inside this, see, if I go inside this, the moment you choose, you have the joins between LFA1 and LND LFA1 EXT, LFB1 and LND EXT. If you do not do this practice, like always make it a habit, whenever you want to join, always have a query first. Because at some later point of time, if you change the tables, it will not be a big rework for you. If you directly use the tables with the joins, you connect two tables straight away with a query, you can do that. But I would suggest not to do that, because if you change the tables at some later point of time, it's a lot of rework. So that's the reason I don't do it. I'm not showing it. What I will always do is, I have a query, I will connect this table to this query. I will connect this table to this query, then I will join it. It's doing the same thing, but this is a clean approach. Now I ask you, I want all my data from LFB1. Let me dump it to the right side. And here I will write a join. Write a join simple. In BODS, I'm not doing the coding. I select the table. For inner joins, it doesn't matter which is on the left or which is on the right. For left outer join, it does matter because whichever table you want the complete data, you have to keep that on the left side here. If I select this table and I do this, I go to my LFA1, I do like this, equal to listener. I select OK. Now I don't want this in my output, right? Because I was only intending to bring this LFA1 listener so that I can get only such records from LFB1 which are having a country US. Since LFB1 is not having any field for country, so I will make use of this table by the means of join. Again, I will go back to this and I will dump this data into LND underscore LFB1 underscore ext underscore US. I select OK. I dump this into, I connect these dots. I save. I will go back to my project, sorry, this level, what do we call this? Job level. I will hit this button. I will validate everything. No error found. I will run this data. Sorry, I will run this job. Right click on the job and execute. If you go here, you see, I will take you to the monitor tab. First, LFA1 is getting executed. Now there is some error. What is the error? Okay, MOCD2XT. There is some error while running because what the error is saying me is like inserted a large value or for MCOD. It's not expecting this big value. What is the field? MCOD1. Let me try to do this. If this doesn't get resolved, I will show you. I will just explain some other ways to do it. How do we do it? I go to options. I select this, use nvarchar to char. Let me try to do it. I'm expecting the same error, but let's check what happens. This is bad data, you know. Again, okay, now this is loading. Sometimes these characters come like Chinese characters or some other characters. So BODS does not understand them. So it tries to convert it into something we don't know. That's the reason I always insist on going to this table and inside this options, change this nvarchar to varchar. It will make sure you don't get such type of errors. Now let me analyze the data here. I will cross this. I want to analyze my data for LFA1. I want to only have my data for country US. Okay, I have US. If I do right click, I do profile. I have 1022 records as expected. If you want to do the profiling for some other field, you can also do it like here. I want to check maybe, let me check ORT1, that is maybe city. I want to check, yeah. So out of these 1022 records, Philadelphia is for 128, Atlanta is for 170, New York is for 56. If you want to analyze any field, you can do it here, update. So this is how we do the initial level of profiling. You can do this profiling inside BODS as well. If you want to check like how many records are there upfront, you can do something like this. It will tell you the number of records in this table. Now, if you want to see how many distincts are there, listener is a primary key for LFA1 as expected. each and every listener or vendor number will be unique. So we are getting 1022. If I want to check for land one, just tick this and update. It's telling me, okay, land one, that is a country. It's only US over here. Minimum US, maximum US. Now let me take for city. If I select, I can select 2, 3, n number of fields and I can do update. Now it's trying to tell me there are 288 different cities and 147 different values for ORT02. The minimum being blank and the maximum, that is, since it's a varchar, it takes A, B, C, D, E, F, G in the sorting order. Then this Washington is the maximum value it can have. Now let me show you the data for LFB1. If I analyze my LFB1, LFB1 is the company code data. LFA1 is general data for vendor. LFB1 is company code data. LFM1 is the purchasing data. LFM2 can also have other purchasing data. And then there can have, in ECC systems, we used to have LFBK. LFBK means bank data, but now in S4HANA system, we make the use of business partner. So we usually do not load LFBK, we load BUT0BK. Okay, then there is WYT3, that is a partner function data. I don't want to go deep into that. So this is how the company codes have been set up for vendors that belong to US. If I want to see the total count, 1291. If I want to see for how many vendors of US the company code was set, only 903. I already told you in the beginning, we were discussing left outer joins. It can be a case like the vendor has been created, but the company code has not been set up. So this is one specific case for that. It can also happen that the vendor was created, but the company code was not set up. Vendor was created, but the purchasing data was not set up. Now, if anybody asks me to migrate vendor master data, I will not only take these 903 records, right? I will take all 1200 and how many records? 1200 and something record that are there for vendors, and then I will extend the company code for 903 records. It does not mean I will only take 903 vendors in my scope of migration. No, whatever is in LFA1, I will load that. Then I will have a left outer join with LFB1 and I will load the corresponding company code data. How do we do that when we configure the iDocs? That's a separate topic. We will touch base on that. Do not worry about that as of now. So this is how my data is looking right now. I want to analyze one more thing. For how many records for country equal to US, they have been marked for deletion. So there is a field LOEVM, So this is the field. If LOEVM is equal to blank, it means the vendor is not marked for deletion. If LOEVM is equal to X, it means vendor has been marked for deletion. When we mark any vendor for deletion, it usually means we do not want them in the system. So how will we get rid of these vendors? We will simply, during the migration, we will write a filter where LOEVM is null. So whatever is not marked for deletion, only such vendors will go to the S4HANA system. Now, I gave you an example yesterday. What if the vendor has been marked for deletion, but there is a purchasing contract with this vendor for the next 10 years and it's going to expire in 2030? If I delete this vendor from my system, what will happen to the downstream object purchase contract? It becomes the duty of a data migration consultant to tell the business owners, hey, this is the impact it's going to have if you delete this purchasing contract. You have to either maybe mark that purchase contract for deletion, or you have to clean your systems, right? For the, at least at the general view, you have to just make sure that this vendor is not marked for deletion, right? Now how do we create these rules? Hey, like how many vendors are marked for deletion? How, some other rule? For example, I want to check for how many vendors the account group is 0001 for US, for country equal to US. So I will write some specific rules inside information stewards, right? I want to touch this on that. I want you guys to know how do we write the rules inside information stewards. I cannot say this is the validation of data. I can rather say I am trying to figure out what will be my scope, how many vendors will there be in scope. We are still in the discovery phase. My
Yeah, yeah.
client wants to know, okay, he wants to migrate data for country US, but he wants to know how many of these vendors are marked for deletion. What if out of 1200 vendors, 1100 have been marked for deletion? Then it makes no sense for them to create those 100 remaining vendors, right? Either they have to clean the system, or they will analyze the downstream objects. We are still in the discovery phase. We are still not there. Like, we don't have a DDD, we don't have an XREF. This particular task forms the basis for creating those DDDs, cross references, those rules, those extraction criteria. This forms the basis. We are still in the discovery phase. So please now don't go into the data migration part. Let's be in the discovery phase. How do we come to
Yeah,
the
yeah.
conclusion? What will be migrated? We are now in a position, we want to understand our scope. As of now, my client told me, hey buddy, I want to migrate data for US. Can you help me to understand what will be in the scope? What if I have some 1200 vendors, now 10 are marked for deletion, right? If I was checking this, let me check again. L, where is L? L, L, cannot find it. Just give me a second. I want to go. Okay, this is LOEVM, right? Okay. If I see for out of how many records, say 1022 records, only 18 have been marked for deletion. So it means less than maybe 2-3%. So it will not bother my client, 1-2% of data does not bother him. He's still good with 98%. What if 1004 were marked for deletion? It might be a case. Then he will analyze his data. He will not even go ahead with the migration of vendor master, because he has to analyze his data. He will then ask me, okay, can you please go ahead and check for my LFM1 table? Can you please go ahead and then check for the purchasing contracts table? Can you profile the data for me so that I take a call? What if I have to migrate the purchasing order data? What my client will tell me, okay, you go to the purchasing contract tables and you try to figure out, if I have a purchasing contract with 100 vendors, how many of those vendors are marked for deletion? How will he come to know? With the use of profiling. So we usually do these tasks inside information stewards. How do we use this information stewards? The basic for using the information stewards is, we need some data, and the profiling is always done on the pure legacy extracted data. Pure data. I will not have any transformations on it. I will just try to apply some filters based on the pilot requirement. Usually, one SAP system is having data for multiple regions, and each region is having a data owner of its own. It's not like one data owner is there and he will be analyzing the data for each and every country. No, it does not work that way. Country US will be having a data owner, and he wants to analyze data for himself. If he can go ahead with the migration, we are just trying to help him. Let's name him Bob. We are just trying to help Bob to take a call if his data is in good shape for migration. He will then go ahead and create the DDDs, set up the filter criteria, set up the mapping documents, everything. But before going there in the discovery phase, we will always start with information stewards. We have to take a call. Is our data looking good? Okay, 60% is good, but 40% we will clean up our legacy systems in the meantime. But they have to take a call somewhere, right? For that, we will use information stewards. And for us as data migration consultants, we will extract the data first in data services, and then we will use these tables, these landed tables in information stewards. I have already shown you how to extract the data. Okay, you want to do, for example, see, mostly you will use an varchar to this varchar. The reason, there might be some characters that which BODS assumes like this is a long character. For example, if your Chinese description is coming up, BODS feels like okay, I will need some maybe 10 spaces to or 10 maybe 10 or 20 spaces to accommodate this character, so it will throw me an error, right? So in order to avoid that, it's always a better practice, go to the options and choose this envarchar to char. Second option you can use is like autocorrect load. What autocorrect load is like does is it will not allow the duplicate record to get into the target table. Please, whenever I say target table, I mean this table where I am dumping my data. This will always be my source table. This will always be my target table. So what this autocorrect load will do, if there's a record, for example, listener 1, exactly same data is again coming for maybe UK, listener 1, same data. All the fields are same. Then if you set this autocorrect load as yes, it will not have the duplicate record in the target system or the target table. Use overflow file. Sometimes it might happen that there is a bad data. Just just now you saw like something was there was an error, right? If you want, I will go. No, do I have this? Yes, I have this. So there was an error, right? What if this MCOD value was something like, I don't know, it can be some 100 characters, and MCOD1 is not accommodating this value. So what we do is inside this error handling, so we can give an error overflow file. So whenever there is an error, the job will not get truncated or job will not get, it will not throw me an error. Rather, whatever is the bad data, it will get loaded to that file. Okay, then you can analyze those error files or overflow files and you can figure out what to do with that. You have the same options, I think, here. Usually what we do is like we will select this, use overflow file, and then you give the file name and you give the like the server address over here where I should just post that file. If there is any overflow of data, like there is any column which cannot accommodate, which can accommodate 30 characters but now 70 characters are coming, or any error happening because of bad data, we take the use of this error handling. What is historical data? If you tell
So,
me from the data integration point of view, historical data is, for example, I change my address from maybe US to UK. What data integration projects do is like they will keep one record for UK, and they will update a flag, say active flag as inactive, and then they will mark another record there and update the address for US. That is for data integration projects. But when it comes to data migration projects, I don't think if there is a vendor, it can have a historical data over there in the system, right? And I don't think any SAP system or any data owner would want the historical data over there in the SAP system, because when you are creating a data, for example, for vendors, you can only create a vendor number, general data, company code. What can you do with the historical data over there? What is a green field? Green field is simply my client was on some system. He was using Excel files till now, but now he wants to use an SAP system. He is new to SAP. Everything
right,
has to be set up from the scratch. So if everything has to be set up from the scratch, he would still need SAP BODS, he would still need HANA Studio, he would still need data migration consultants who know how to migrate data using IDOCs and BAPIs and LTMCs or LSMWs or BTPs, anything. But at the end of the day, whether it's brownfield, whether it's greenfield, for us, this is data. When it's like brownfield, we are having data from ECC systems. It's easy for us to manipulate data because we know, okay, KTOC is getting mapped to KTOC. But for greenfield implementations, we are not sure how they have set up their tables. Then they need to define this explicitly in the provided templates, in the DDDs. They have to tell us, okay, they had a field alpha, they want to map it to KTOC in SAP now. So they have to take the calls. As data migration experts, we don't care how they want to, how their legacy data is set up. For us, it's the work of functional owners and data owners to come to the conclusion how the data will be there in S4, because SAP will always be a standard, right? It cannot have LFA1 structure for one client and LFA1 different structure for different second client. It's the standard. Everyone has to follow that template. LFA1 is having these many fields. If you are having the data in some alpha beta fields, I don't care. You have to give me the mapping as per SAP. So whether this is green field or brown field, it doesn't matter to us. Ultimately, what we are doing is we are migrating data, and we are migrating data based on their mapping documents, DDD. So they have to design that perfectly. For data services, you don't need to worry about any configurations, anything. The repos, the information steward, the servers, everything, repositories, central repositories, everything is done by the basis team. Your job starts when you look, when they give you the DDD, you go there and you start analyzing the DDD. You then figure out how you will load the data. If you have a DDD, you go, for example, somebody gives me a DDD for material master. I know by my experience I'll be using an IDOC mat mass. What if they are giving me some fields over there that are not present in the IDOC, right? Mat mass IDOC. Then I will try to figure out the BAPI for this, like material underscore save, right? Then I will try to figure out if there is these fields are there. If I still don't find it, then what I do is like I will tell my client, hey buddy, you have given me these fields. These are not present in the IDOC or BAPI. What should we do? Are they really needed in the target system? He can tell me yes or no. If he is like, no, I need these, then I will just check like in the transactions, if there is any manual transactions by which I can update these fields, then I will create an LSMW. If nothing works, then I will again go back to my like DDD owner. I will ask him, hey buddy, we need the help of an ABAPA to create a wrapper or to create a function module for this. Unless and until you are not sure about the method of load, you will never go ahead and create your code in BODS, because there are certain scenarios where you will not be able to load the data. Then what is the point of wasting our time creating creating the extraction jobs, transformation job? Because I have seen it in my past experience. Sometimes we are not able to load the data, then the client tells us, okay, I will do it manually. I have some 60, 70 records. Please, I do, because I don't want to use an ABAPA as of now. It will increase my cost. So whenever you analyze the DDD, always the first thing is go and check which method of load you are going to use. For example, they gave me some 10 fields. I found them in the MATMAS. I am good. Then I will start with the extraction. From there, my work starts. My work is not to configure BODS or configure information servers or put up the servers. No, that's the work of basis guys. Okay, let me then go ahead and start with the information steward. Before doing that, I want to just copy this. So this is how your information stewards is going to look like. Inside your information stewards, you will be having a project. This project, the admin will take care of this. You can also create these projects or connections or anything inside the CMC, Central Management Console. But as of now, you don't need to worry about this because everything will be set up. This is how your information stewards is going to look like. Let me go inside the project. Can see, for example, different pilots can have different projects, and these guys, what business owners do is like they will not give access to UK data owners. If for example, I have a project for US, I have a project for UK, these guys do not give access for US to UK data, right? They do not allow UK guys to see US data, or UK guys will not allow Europe, say Indian guys to see UK data. So they can set up their systems in such a way like they will be giving the access to particular owners. So what we do is like we create different projects. If I see over here, I have only one enterprise project, but inside Central Management Console, we have something. I will show you that as well. So we have something called, this is how it looks. Where is Central Management Console? You see Central Management Console. If I go inside Central Management Console, so how the Central Management looks like is if I go here and I select my information stewards, a window will appear. If I go to data review, I can create a project over here. create. You see, if I select this, I want to name it. I want to create like pj underscore test, or I want to do it like pj underscore test underscore uk. Let me give the same description, pk underscore test underscore uk. I want to save it. The moment I save it and I go back here, I should be able to see it because I already created that. You see? So these guys, what we can do inside the CMC, we can do it, but we seldom do this. This is all the work of admins and basis guys. We do not do it. Let me take you inside the enterprise project now. Okay. Now, what I will do is there are different tiles over here. One is workspace home. One is rules where I can write a rule. The third one is data cleansing advisor. We don't use it. This one is important. Scorecard setup, where we will see the overall score of my objects, like for vendors, customers, materials, cost centers, profit centers. I can set up the rules and I can try to figure out how my data is looking like. What's the overall score? This is something like task, where I can create a task and run it. Let me go from the word, like, let me go it from here. The first thing is I need to import the table that I already extracted. So what I will do, please remember these points or you can note it down, or you will be having the access to this recording. Please remember these things. The first thing is I need to import my table that I created. So I will do something like plus, then table by name. I will select LFA1EXT Okay, I want to do save. If you see inside this, I have LFA1EXTUS. Now I want to import LFB1 as well. Everything is connected to HANA Studio, you know. So HANA Studio or HANA DB is the base for each and everything, whether it's BODS, anything. That's the reason I keep on insisting. Please understand SQL. Try to learn SQL. Now if I want to analyze this data or see this data over here, I click on this and I can view my data. Okay, this is how my data is looking. For this is how my data is looking. Now, I want to create a rule. I want to have a look on my LFA1 data. The rule is just try to check the count or the score of LFA1 based on deletion indicator. What is a deletion indicator? LOEVM. If deletion indicator is marked for X, or if a vendor is marked for deletion, then LOEVM will be equal to X. Now I want to take a call or I want to set up a rule based on this LOEVM. So what I will do, I will go to my second tab. This is the rule. I will create a rule. Let me take the rule as rule underscore LFA1 underscore US. I can do some description here, like check, or I can maintain a field as well, because LFA1 can have multiple rules. LOEVM underscore US. So what this rule means, I'm checking my LFA1, I'm checking on deletion indicator for country US. So what I can do is check deletion indicator for vendor US. In the approver, I can set it as administrators. Then here I can have the options, quality dimension, whether I'm checking the accuracy, completeness, conformity, consistency, integrity. Let me put this in integrity. Whether to put it in integrity, conformity, anything, we will be given the sheet, the information rules sheet by the business owners, and they will mention each and every point in that sheet. Hey, you need to create a rule for LFA1 for country US, and the quality dimension should be integrity. They will mention it over there. Now, the first thing is you have to name a rule. Second thing is you have to give a description. Third step is you have to keep the approval administrators. Fourth thing is you have to select the dimension. You can select the dimension based on the input or based on the profiling sheet. Then you will add a parameter. As of now, I want to do the profiling based on LOEVM. So I will create a parameter LOEVM. After creating a parameter, I will hit this add expression. The moment I hit add expression, please remember, in case of expressions in information stewards, you have to think that what should be the value of that particular field to pass the data. Please remember, you have to remember this thing. We have to pass the data. How will we get the failed data? We will only, in information stewards, whatever is the rule, we have to do the inverse of that. See, why are we intending to write this rule? We want to get all those vendors that have been marked for deletion. So I should do something like here, where LOEVM is equal to X, right? But we don't do this in information storage. We always do the opposite, so that we get the failed records. I need the records which have LOEVM equal to X. Information stewards has been designed in such a way that we have to write the opposite of whatever we are intending. I am intending to get the records for LOEVM equal to X. I know LOEVM can only have two values, either X or null, either X or blank. So I know X I need, right? So I will write not equal to X. I will again repeat this. This is very important. Whenever you are writing a rule in information stewards, you always have to think in the opposite direction, because you want to get the failed records. In order to get the failed records, you will pass the data. Here I am writing a rule which passes the data. What is my pass data? That is not marked for deletion. So I am passing the data here, because when you are passing the data, it will give you then the pass score. Okay, 999 records are not marked for deletion. They are passing this rule. They are passing the data here. Then my score will be 9.99. Otherwise, if you write exactly what it's written in the profiling sheet, you will mess up with the reports. As of now, I want to have a rule on LOEVM which is marked for deletion. I know if I have to pass this data from the information stewards point of view. So I will write not equal to X. I will save this, and then I will click this button. Here's a drop down, and I will approve this rule. Click OK, and just close this. If I do a refresh, you see under integrity, there is a rule LFA1, which is in the approved state. Now, there are several steps. The first step is you created a rule, right? Rule is created. Now I want to bind this rule to a table. I want to use this rule on some table, right? You only created a rule. Now you want to pass some data through this rule so that you get the scores. In information stewards, we call this as binding. I will select this rule and I will hit this button. This is called create a binding. I will select this. I will select my table. My table is LFA1. Then it will automatically select LOEVM because I named it correctly. If you want this rule to be on some other field, you can select them here. Whatever field you want to apply, you can do that. But as of now, I want to apply on LOEVM. I will keep this as LOEVM and I will do save and close. Now, you see, if I select this rule, it's telling me, hey, buddy, this rule is having a binding on table this, and it's bound on column LOEVM. If my score is less than 5, it's a low score. If it's greater than 8, it's a high score. And whenever the score is less, it will have something like a red signal type of thing. I will show you. Let me repeat. The first thing is creating a rule. The second thing is binding a rule. Okay. Now I need to get the score. I need to push this data to my server and push this data through this rule, right? So what I will do, I will go back to my workspace. I will click rule results. I'm going really slow because I want you to memorize these things. When I do like this, I will select this. I will hit this button. This is calculate score. First, you created a rule. Second, you are binding this rule to a table. Third, you are creating the score or calculating the score. Let me do this. Then it will ask me, give the name to this task. I say vendor marked for deletion basic for US, right? Now I can give it maximum of 500. I will do save and run now. The moment you do save and run now, you can come to the task and you can check if your rule is running or it's completed or it's failed. Let it run. Completed. I will go back to this. I will hit rule result. I will select this. I will refresh my results and then select this. You see, my score as of now is 9.82. That is 98.2% of my records are passing this rule. How many records are failing? 18. If I click on this, it will give me the failed records. You see, for all these records, LOEVM should be equal to X. Where is LOEVM now? This is LOEVM. If you see these records, for everything LOEVM is X, then what they do is like business owner, they go and they export the results so that they can analyze these. So this is how we will create a rule, bind a rule, and then calculate the scores. Now, for my basic or my general data for my vendor, score is 9.82. It means from the general data point of view for my country, US, I am good to go with my migration, right? Now, my client wants to have a look on the company code data. Okay, let me create one more rule for company code. I will again go here. I will create a rule. Say I want to copy this once. I will create a rule. I will name it as LFB1. Check deletion. We also have a deletion at the plant level. Sorry, company code level. Let me check. I want to check this. This is my LFA1. This is my LFB1. Okay. We can have let me check if there is a deletion flag. We should have at the company code level. Yeah, it should be there. I just want to check how the data is looking like so that I can set up my rule like that. Usually it should be null or X, but in the ECC data, it's like spaces. Now let me analyze. Okay, for 13 records, it's X. Let me set up the score for LFB1. Check deletion indicator at company code level for country equal to US. Again, I go here. It's a repetitive task. Let me set this as completeness. I can set any quality dimension over here. Let me say maybe no, not it. Let me check consistency. Okay. I will add a parameter. Again, I will name it as LOEVM. Again, I will add an expression. Again, I will say not equal to. I will say X. I will save it. I will click this. Then I will approve. Okay. I have my score. Sorry, I have my rule now. This is under consistency. I select this rule. I will bind it. What is the table? LFB1. I do like this. LOEVM gets auto selected. I save and close. I'm done. I go back to workspace home. Then I go here. I will select this LFB1. I will create a score. Just give me a second, guys. Okay. Now I want to name a task. Say check deletion indicator company code US. US. Now again, I can set it as 500. I will save and run now. Now, why am I creating these tasks? For example, I suggested my data owners to clean their data. They might take some time to do it. So what will happen is, like, if on 30th of June I did some reporting and they started to clean it, they might ask me after 10 or 20 days, buddy, can you run your reports again? So what I have to do is I can come over here, I can do select all, and I can hit this. The moment I hit this, then I will regenerate the scores. And you can see it in the information stewards. How did the score look like? I will run it for both my rules again, and I will show you how it creates the real-time graphs. First, let me go here. I will again go to rule result. I will do select this, and then I see the score. If I again, you see 13 records are failing, 9.89 is the score. And if I select this, I can see these 13 records over here, which are failing. So this is how we set up the scores, how we get the scores, and how we can share this data with the data owners. Now there's a catch. Please remember this. In information servers, whenever you want to export this data or you want to see the data, we can only see 500 records. So that's the issue with information servers. You know, then how do we export the data? I will show you later on, but usually we have the limit of 500 to it. So now we are done with this, right? Scores have been generated. My business owners can take a call. Okay, I am good to go with LFA1. I am good to go with LFB1 data migration. But before doing that, what I as a data migration consultant will do, I will create a scorecard for this. This is corresponding to LFA1. This is corresponding to LFB1. I will not be having only two rules, right? I'll be having 50, 60, or 20, 30 rules. How will my data owner understand what is the how the overall data score looks like, right? So for that, I will set up my scorecard. How to do that? I will go here. I will create a scorecard. I will select this. Say I want to select it for vendor US. Say I want to do vendor gen underscore general data underscore company code data underscore US. I will save it. The moment I hit this, I need to check all the dimensions. that in which I created my rules, right? Let me check where all I created my rules. I created in my consistency and integrity. So I will select consistency and I will select integrity over here. Then I will select this consistency is selected. I have to select the rule. Okay, if under consistency there is LFB1 rule, I will save this. Then when this is saved, you have to select this. It will tell me, okay, this rule has been bound to this table. It needs a complete information before setting up the scorecard. See, there's a warning sign that's gone. For consistency, it's gone. It means this rule, this dimension, quality dimension is done. But at the header level, that is vendor US, I'll still see this warning. It's not completely defined. So what I can do, I have to now go to integrity. If you have 7 or 8 quality dimensions, you need to do this for each and every quality dimension and each and every rule. So it's going to take up some time for the first time. So I will select this rule. Then inside the rule, I will click this. I will see the binding of the table. Now you see this is gone. Now my scorecard has been generated. If I go to this scorecard and if I select now, you see there is a scorecard. It means the quality of my data for general data and company code data is 9.86. For the quality dimension consistency, it's 9.89. For the quality dimension 9.82. The score is for the integrity, the score is 9.82. Okay. Trend line, it's not available as of now because once we run these tasks some 2, 3, or 5 times or 10 times, then there appears a graph how the data is changing. As of now, the data will not change, right? Whenever they will clean their data, then you will see a score over here. I want to run this again so that I can show you something else. I want to run these two scores. Let me rerun these two. I will select these. I will run these. When you will do this, for example, you give them the report on 30th of June and you tell them, hey, buddy, please clean the data. Now they go back there to their system, analyze the reports, and they figure out, okay, for general data, we want to unmark 6 vendors that were marked for deletion. They will clean the system, their legacy system, right? And they try to they understood like, okay, we cannot mark 13 vendors marked for deletion at the company code level. They will go back to their system and they will clean it as well. Then what they will ask is, please rerun your reports. What you will do is like you will run your jobs again in the PODS so that you have the latest copy of data. Then you will run these tasks again here. If I go back to my scorecard, I will show you. You see this? Let me refresh. The score is still the same. If you hit this tab, data quality detail, now you see for vendor, I have 2 dimensions. It will give me the complete detail. I have 2 quality dimensions. For a quality dimension, this is the score. For integrity, this is the score. These are the rules under my vendor US. And if you want to see, for example, if I select now the table at the table level, I selected this rule, I selected this table. Now it will tell me in the real time how my data is looking. So my score was what? I, on the X line, there's a date. So it will tell me, okay, on this date, your score was 9.82. If I run it after 10 days, it might give me a score like this. Okay, now the data quality has improved. Or if the data quality is not improving, it might be like the point is 9.8. Sometime later, it will be 9.7. Somebody else marked some more 20 records marked for deletion, right? So then you can analyze it over here, how your data is looking like. But usually, whenever we go through the discovery phase, it is like 60% of the data is passing these rules, or 60% of the data is looking good, they go ahead and go for the data migration. If the data is looking like, no, 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 this is not looking good to us, we need to clean up the system before we can go ahead with the data migration, then they will stop that particular pilot. They will focus on some other pilot, or they can ask you to do the profiling for UK. And if any pilot looks good to them, and they will go ahead with that before they clean up the data for US. This is completely how information steward works. And trust me, the moment you have 5, 6, or 7 years of experience in data migration, people would be expecting you to know information stewards. If you know data migration, sorry, if you know information stewards, it's going to help you big time. Because mostly what managers, senior managers do is they want their resources to know this, because they do not want to hire information stewards guy for doing the discovery phase. They want their data migration consultants to know this, so that just maybe to save the cost, right? Because one person can do this. So whenever I personally ask anyone if he has data migration experience, I would definitely ask him, do you know how to use information servers? If he knows it, it's a plus point. It will always be out of 10, always. It will always be 10
Okay.
out of 10. So it gives me a score of 9.89. It means 98% data is good. A good client will never use Excel, because he will not get the real-time reports on that. He will not get the historical data over there. But here you can get the historical data. When you run it like maybe 10, 20 times, or 2, 3 times, the data is changing, then you can see some beautiful graphs over here. Even you go here, you can see some great graphs over here. You see,
Mhm.
it's taking time to load, but yeah, it will. So you can see. So even if I want to see the graph for this, it's telling me, okay, it will help the client to keep a track. Okay, my data was looking 98% correct maybe on 3rd of June. Now it's looking 95% is looking correct. Now 80% is looking correct. See, nothing like that. See, what happens is like for example, in one of my projects, or in some project, we did the data profiling. Then what we did is like, against each rule, we wrote down, okay, for example, against each object, I have this vendor object, right? I do not write vendor US over there. I'm writing it for the sake of testing over here. So what I will do, I will write vendor over there as an object. Then I will write the quality dimensions. Then I will maintain the quality in an Excel sheet. I'm saying I will maintain this quality score 9.89, 9.82. Then under each quality dimension, I will have a rule. Rule number one, rule number two, I will write the score. Then I will consume that Excel sheet in my Power BI to get some sort of a presentation report, PPT or something. And then I will showcase it to my client. I will just give them the reports in a presentable way. I will not straight away give them. This is understood by data migration consultants, business owners, but to the heads, to the big guys, they do not consume these things. They will simply consume those PPTs, and we will use this data to create those PPTs using the Power BI. I want to analyze this data. Okay, I can. This is like the limitation of information stewards. You can only have 500 records. Now if you want to get all these 1000 records into some Excel straight away, you cannot do that. Then what basis team does, they will create a profiler repository. There's a repository called profiler repository. They will create it. And when you are creating your tasks here, when, for example, let me edit it. When you are creating a task, save all failed data. I'm not selecting anything. I will use that profiler repository over here. Then that when I'm trying to export to Excel, I can get more than 500 records. This is a limitation of information servers, and you cannot do anything about it.